You're a flop. Yeah. Oh. This is flop culture. You are listening to Flop Culture, a podcast where I speak to an esteemed guest about a flop they find interesting, confounding, and potentially isn't a flop at all. I'm your host, Fionnuala. I hope you're well. You can find Flop Culture on social media. I'd love if you kept up with us there. It's flopculture_pod on Instagram and TikTok. And you know what else I love? Ratings, particularly 4 or 5 star ones. If you leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and you leave your nickname in the review or a name, whatever, can be your real name, I don't care. Rat yourself out. If you leave that there, I will recommend a bop or a flop that I don't actually think is a flop at all at the end of the next week's episode. So please do that. Love your ratings. And it also helps people find the show. If you can't get enough Flop Culture, we're on Patreon, patreon.com/Flop Culture. You get minimum 2 bonus episodes a month. So you'll get things like deep dives into why Taylor Swift is courting the NFL at all. We've got a series called Bop Culture, which is where we talk about things that are actually good with esteemed guests. So we've got our Fleabag rewatch podcast. There's a Severance podcast coming soon, or it might be up at this point. Who knows? That's very exciting coming for the people. So yeah, join us over there. It's a lot of fun. As I'm recording this, I am on my jolliers. I am in Australia seeking out Australian flops. So for that reason, there's no news. There's no top of the flops. I'm not unleashing my wrath on anyone. But there are still flops. There will always be flops. And I am so delighted to introduce this week's one. This is such a good episode. Before X Factor, before The Voice, there was You're a Star, a reality TV singing competition that couldn't have been more Irish if it tried. Aspiring singers competed to represent Ireland at the Eurovision Song Contest. However, several format changes and rival shows meant You're a Star inevitably had to sing its swan song. Joining me to discuss You're a Star is showbiz editor with RSVP magazine, Mikie O'Loughlin. Mikie O'Loughlin, thank you so much for joining me on Flop Culture. This has been a long time coming because I think I've cancelled and rescheduled 8,000 times. So apologies about that, but thank you for being here for this episode. Much appreciated.
I always felt really bad. It was always hard to get a date.
Between the two of us, like summer, just honestly nuts.
Look, I'm well used to finding it hard to get a date, so it's fine.
Great, brilliant start. Just me actively insulting my poor guests. I'm delighted to have you on, especially for this episode in particular, because obviously reality TV, it's my bread and butter. Irish reality TV, also my bread and butter. What have you picked for this week's episode?
I have picked You're a Star.
Yeah. Oh, I hope everyone read the title of this episode and also started singing to themselves.
You have to. And if it doesn't randomly come into your head in the shower, or, when you have the Sunday scaries and you can't go to sleep, are you even Irish? Did you grow up in the 90s?
So what's your first memory of the show for you? Because, obviously I was rewatching a few bits to record this episode. And I remember, the momentum around season 1. I remember kind of being actively really in it for season 2. And then I think I kind of fell off after that. But it's so funny reading back the names and seeing everyone who was involved and some of the people you might have forgotten. It's crazy. So what's your kind of lasting memory of it from when you were growing up?
I would say it would be similar to with you in that sense, season 1 and season 2. I only really remember the final of season 1, and I remember the hype around Mickey Joe and Simon Casey, and it came that year after Pop Idol. So they were kind of like our Will Young and Gareth Gates. It was who's going to win? It was very 50-50. And I remember Larry Bass, who's the producer of it from Shanahan, they produced Dancing with the Stars now, and he said once, anecdotally, that more people voted in that final than voted in the general election the year before, which, not surprised if that fact is in fact true.
I would believe it. I have such a thing of just again that feeling of like community and all of us coming together to be like, because obviously, well, sorry for anyone who's unfamiliar, those initial seasons of Eurostar, it was all about selecting someone to go ahead and represent us in the Eurovision. And obviously we have such we're in high regard at the Eurovision and we've done so well previously, but you could also nearly say like this was kind of the start of us falling off, but probably unfairly, because Mikie Joe, that song slapped. That man and his sparkling green guitar, it holds up. 20 years today, it still does, 100%.
I will never not go anywhere in Requested, and like it did come at a very precarious time in Irish Eurovision history. We'd won the 3 times in the noughties. We got second place in 97. I think we got a top 10 finish then the year after, and then it started to slowly fall off. So now we have 2 semi-finals in the Eurovision, and I think about 42 countries. Back then it was a lot less. You're looking at maybe about the 30 mark. So if you didn't do well, you had to skip the following year. So people were kind of disqualified of a sort.
Oh my God, I forgot that.
So we weren't in 2002. So it was like, Ireland, you're not in it. So obviously there was a big panic in RTE. What will we do? They've probably seen how well Pop Idol had done in the UK. We'll do a similar format. And the format worked in the sense that massive audiences viewed the 6:30 slot on the Sunday, which is still the shiny floor slot, followed by the All-Ireland Talent Show and Fame the Musical.
It was when the Wikipedia page of Eurostar is a treat. I would suggest going and watching it or reading it. But like even when it said, so obviously like Eurostar replaced Pop Idol, and then it was like Eurostar was replaced with the All-Ireland Talent Show. I was like, I remember ferociously watching like the provinces competing with each other, like Munster, and then Dublin was just on its own, and John Creedon was down in Munster. Like it was just so quintessential Irish. Anyway, we're not here to talk about the Ireland Talent Show. You're more than welcome to come back and talk about that. But yeah, I just like it was such. This was event television.
Yes.
Like it really was. Even like watching back some of the clips from season 2 and how well they did, like, you know, they followed the contestants through the auditions, and then you'd like the heats, and then you had, you know, when it got to a certain number of people, they moved up to a bigger stage in the Helix, where it's so funny because that's just where people graduate as well, you know what I mean? It's just, they did it really well, and you had like obviously the judges, like Ray D'Arcy hosting, huge star. It had a lot. It's kind of no wonder that everyone was glued. And then you try in the Eurovision thing, it's like, well, obviously we're going to be eating this up. Like.
And like the judges, Kerry Katona was a judge on Series 1, and she was going out with married to Brian McFadden at the time, had just come from a Tommy Kitten fame, in and around the time she won I'm a Celebrity. So like she was huge news. You know, then Louis Walsh came in. Obviously, he was massive news coming in from pop stars, Linda Martin. Going on a few series, introduction of Brendan O'Connor into our lives for the very first time. But it was season 2 that really was the one for me. And it was because it was a girl from Ennis, Ruth Cullen. And
shout out Ruth Cullen.
Hello, Ruth Cullen.
Shout out Ennis.
Shout out Ennis, absolutely. And it began with the audition process was before Christmas. And that's when you whittle down the heat. So you got Ennis, Longford, Cork, Galway, Dublin, wherever. And I just remember clearly one of them being Longford and obviously Ennis. And she made it through the heat. So it was 2 people qualified from each heat. And I think there was wild cards. So she qualified, and it was just the whole town was behind her. And she was only about 17 and she sang Fields of Gold.
I'm obsessed with that. I don't know if I was about to say this and people are going to get ratty at me. I'm sure there was. I can't remember a significant Cork applicant. Though, actually, I correct myself, there was one season, and I had no idea about this. If anyone is as chronically online as me and is like into makeup or whatever, there's a makeup artist, incredible makeup artist, bridal makeup artist, Jeanette Cronin. She was in it one of the years, because I was going back through, like, again, like Wikipedia list of all the contestants, and it was like she was in one of the seasons. And I was like, that's hardly like Jeanette Cronin makeup, like doing the bride's makeup, beautiful brides, like, and then I looked up what it was. I was like,
I think everybody has some connection to somebody.
I couldn't realise how many people I knew. So, like, obviously, like, season 1, the inaugural one, everyone know, I think, and that's one that most people remember. Mikie Joe Hart from Lifford, shout out. Simon Casey. Season 2 then.
Season 1, Brian Ormond. Brian Ormond, who was also on Pop Idol.
Okay, talk to me about this.
Pop Stars. So Brian Ormond did the circuit of the music shows.
Yeah.
He did Pop Stars. He made it to, I think he was like, so they brought it down to 12 is how they did in Pop Stars.
This is like crashing back to me like a wave.
6 made it into 6.
Yeah.
6 didn't. and he was one of the 6. And if something happened to one of the band members, he was supposed to get into the band. What happened to one of the band members? She was 11 and couldn't be in. Hello, Nadine Coyle.
Hello, Nadine Coyle. Famed listener, Flop Culture, I'm sure.
And he didn't make it in. Anyway, then he went on to Pop Idol in the UK and then did Eurostar. And then he went on to host Eurostar in the last season. So, you know, his career, I think, came full circle.
All comes around. All comes around.
You just have to wait.
Yeah, you just have to wait. You just have to hang around long enough and wait. Yeah, absolutely. Season 2 then, I think a lot more people will remember because I kind of didn't seeing the names and then I watched clips and it was like, oh yes, Chris Doran, this is all coming screaming back to me. What a voice. What a beautiful man. Oh my God, I remember because this again was back in the time where because it was such a big deal. And again, the Eurovision connection, the winner was announced on RT News. It was the last item on the RT, 9 o'clock or whatever news being and Chris Doran will be going to represent us in, I can't remember where we were that year, Turkey, I think. But even watching it back, he's the smoothest man ever.
Yeah.
But also, one of the auditions that always stood out for me, but I couldn't remember his name, George Murphy, Raglan Road.
Yes.
When I watched that, I was like, oh, it was like a jigsaw piece was put back into my brain. And so funny because we only saw, myself and Cian only saw him very recently because he was performing at Oktoberfest.
I was there.
And Cian kept saying, Cian was like, George Murphy, because sorry, my boyfriend Cian is from Beaumont. George Murphy's from Beaumont. He's like Dublin hero, yes, whatever. And I was watching the audition, I was like, and then it was just screaming back to me. But all his performances, there's one where he's wearing a hat and stuff. It was the performance where he messes up
3 times.
No reality show will ever compete.
No.
Sorry. And you're seeing him backstage and he's talking to his granny or something and he's getting really upset. And he's this child of 17, the pressure.
It was huge news. He was set to win it. He had won all day each week. He was again, all the votes. And then it got to I think the quarterfinal stage and boom, he's out. I think that's how a lot of the reality shows work. If you're favourite from day one, you don't win. But also the producers did a One Direction on it and had 4 guys called Final Four. It's obviously a great name. So they were 10 years ahead of One Direction, or maybe 7 years ahead of One Direction, and boom, there they were having a formed band of 4, I suppose, for lack of a better word, rejects. But you want to be the reject, hello, One Direction.
Yeah, truly, yeah.
They're doing quite well. And they ended up backing Chris Doran. And then I think there was a lot of hype behind season 2 because the Mickey Joe Hart song did so well, still standing to this day. And he came 11th in the Eurovision, which was, in grander scheme of things, quite good.
It's good compared to us now, which is so funny. At the time, people were like, this is shocking. But as a single, it did so well, went #1 on the charts, remained there for 5 weeks, which is unheard of now for even a contemporary song.
Has anyone been to a wedding where it hasn't been played? Because I don't think
No, truly, absolutely not. Fastest best-selling single of 2003, Beyond. So you had all this hype. Chris Doran's in it. I'm trying to think of, there was someone else significant that I'm missing in that contestant. I'm sure you're about to tell me.
The James Kilban came second.
James Kilban. Talk to me about the James Kilban of it all.
So he was kind of the older contestant, to use that term, and I'm sure 20 years on, he actually probably wasn't that old at the time.
Oh, literally not at all.
That's just how things worked.
Poor Louis Walsh being there's a bang of Donegal, there's a bang of Daniel O'Donnell off you. I'm leave that man alone. He just really wants to sing,
And I think back then in 2003, 2004, people who were just over 30 were actually 50, even though they were just 31.
Truly,
and we can say that now. We're approaching those ages.
We're progressive now, it's perfect. And we are also rapidly approaching those ages.
Yeah, but everyone who just was over that age was just old. Even looking at the X Factor, the over 25s.
I know.
Who were over the hill, over 25.
I remember looking at Shane Ward and still fancy him, but also being that man is the oldest man I've ever seen. That man is as old as time. He's in the over 25s category.
And that's who James Kilban was. And he's still performing in country music. I remember hearing him on Live Line during the year. So there he is, still doing his
Shout
thing.
out James Kilban, wherever you are.
And I remember the girl who came third, or woman who came third, was Jean Butler's coming to my head, but it's not Jean Butler.
It's not Jean Butler, but I know exactly what you're on about.
Jean, anyway.
She had she did a performance of Come Together, the Beatles.
Yes, I remember being really sexy.
Really sexy.
And me as age 10 been why aren't we sending that to Eurovision? That would translate really well.
It was, but it's so funny to hear her talk about it. So again, I don't know, international listeners or anyone who doesn't really remember, this was as much as this was the biggest show on TV, it was also how do I put this politely? It it was nothing compared to X Factor in comparison to like the later years when it's like there's full choreo, there's backing dancers.
There was no Beyonce singing with anybody.
There was absolutely not. It was them on a stage in the Helix, Dublin. We love the North Side. Shout out the North Side. And that was it. But this particular performance of Jean is so funny because she's talking about like how she wanted to do something different and she felt like she was being typecast. So she's like, the performance is her and she's kind of doing a little bit of choreography, but it's just like...
in a trilby hat.
In a pink trilby hat. Now she's slaying... Girls, I let the record show. She's slaying. Not a critique of her, but she's talking and she's like, I wanted the chair, I wanted the hat. I'm like, oh my God, there was absolutely no production here that Jean's like, give me one chair and a hat, please. I'm begging, like, for this iconic performance. I am going to slay the house down boots, like. And she did, in fairness. It was just... It's just so quintessentially Irish and just, it's perfect. Like even there's a clip where they go see, because the judges get to pick like one wild card to bring back for the season, and there's a whole thing where it's like they're going to like surprise them, whatever, and half them are just in their gaffs or whatever, just like do it, and it's like Linda Martin being like, I hope someone's home, whatever, and like you're
running up her driveway.
Yeah, and she's like, what would you say if I said the word wild card to you? And then your one's going, like just losing her mind. It's actually perfect television. I miss it so much.
And like the votes must have been coming in thick and fast because there's a lot of parochial regionalness to it all, that, you know, if someone is from your area, you're going to vote for them. I remember I was only allowed 2 votes a week for Ruth Cullen, so obviously the phone bill must have been sky high. There was a very high texting call number. So. Now, and she didn't win, so maybe we've got more votes than
Sorry, Ruth. You're the people's winner. You're a flop culture's winner, anyway.
We talked about George Murphy and him messing up his. He was starting at the wrong time.
Yeah, it was the first week. So, like live performance again. He's 17. He's a child on the stage. It's beyond.
There was another guy that weekend. He sang Mary. I'm not sure who sings that song originally.
Oh, Philip Noon.
Yes.
Yeah, Philip Noon's the contestant.
And then he was like, well, if George Murphy did that and restarted and got all the sympathy, I can't. So he just sang the song out of tune.
He is out of tune, God love him.
And he said it in his post-interview. He's like, yeah, no, well, I didn't want to do a George on it because, you know, George did the George on it. You can't be another one. So I just went along with it.
But again, it's that kind of Irish attitude. Like, there was no malice in what Philip was saying, but it was just like very truthful, being like, well, somebody's already done it. I'm not going to do it and play up to it because people will be like, oh, here you are, begging for sympathy or whatever. Oh my God. I actually looked him up, funnily enough. He's now in Doha. Yeah, if anyone wants to look him up on Instagram, he's performing away, happy out. He saw Post Malone recently and he got a video with him. So
great.
Shout out Phil Moon. Love to see it. What did you think of Chris Doran winning? Were you a Chris Doran stan? And what did you think of the song that ultimately went on to represent us at Eurovision that year?
Do you know, like looking back, it's not a terrible song and it's very much that Irish ballad, but it came in a time where it was right at the beginning of the novelty acts and you needed the novelty to stand out. And that obviously just wasn't there. There was no novelty whatsoever. He was very handsome, but I remember my aunt really fancying him and me being like, oh my God, no. And now I look back and I'm like, what a ride.
Oh, like he has this thing where he's kind of barely holding the mic up to his mouth. I was like, stop flirting with me, Chris Doran, through the laptop. Like, it was just, he had it. He had that like charisma and this kind of insane confidence that you didn't see with the rest of them. He was just like, I'm here, I know I can sing.
Yeah.
And you got even that with the judges' feedback. The judges were, and I should say the judges at this point where it was Louis Walsh, Linda Martin, Phil Coulter, like eating it up, gobble gobble. They loved Chris.
I interviewed Phil Coulter last year and all I did was ask about yours.
And I'd say he was like, get the fuck away from me.
I couldn't use any of it because it was just for my own personal information. I was like, and what happened then?
Mikey is preparing like hours and hours of audio for his own like explosive West Cork podcast series when it's on your star.
Absolutely. And I'd like people who would listen, all 15 people.
Oh, truly, yeah, I would. I would just play over and over again.
My standout in Chris Doran is he'd one piece of choreography and he just did a stop.
Yeah, he loved to stop.
Just a stop. And I was like, yes, give us that stop.
Oh, here, actually, I have to talk about this before we move on to the next season. At one point at the start of season 2, and again, go back, you'll find it on YouTube. Like, when I say Linda Martin is wearing one of the most elaborate necklaces I've ever seen, it's taking up her entire... it's like a chess piece, like, nearly. Yeah. Like, it's just... It's so iconic. I love it.
And what I love about the judges as well, they were just sitting on a couch on the side of the stage.
I meant to say that when I was talking about like the production budget. It's like they're just they're here on a sofa, just like, yes, well done, very good.
Just there beside the microphones, like they're not in front of the stage, they're not like away from the stage, they're just part of it.
It's like they forgot.
Like, just don't put the camera on them now.
Yeah.
And now put the camera on them.
It's like they forgot they were there or that they had to be part of it.
Shit, where will we put the judges?
Oh, so good. So good. Season 3 brings us into 2004, 2005. There's a few changes to the season as well. So they're not just letting solo singer-performers. Bands are allowed in under the size of 6 people, could now enter. Donna and Joseph McCall. Let's talk about it. Do you have any memory? I don't have any memories of them on this season, but I obviously remember the song going to Eurovision and them not doing great, unfortunately. But
what I remember is them not supposed to win. They came up kind of slowly through it in the background.
Okay.
They weren't these favourites whatsoever, and then boom, they just won. Now the song, I'm sure, when you heard it first, was really catchy, and that was part of Eurostars. They were given their song for the final, so you knew what song was going to represent Ireland in the Eurovision, which is actually very handy to know. It wasn't you pick a winner, they got a song after. The song is also written by Carl Broderick, husband of Alan Hughes of Ireland AM.
Shout out, Carl.
Well. Yeah. And there's Love question mark.
Love question mark. Which I think got a raw deal. I actually think that's a slapper of a song. I think, was it with the right act? Not sure.
Maybe not. This was our first time in the semi-final, so I don't think we really knew what the story was. I think we were all
within Eurovision.
In the Eurovision, okay. I think we were all a bit like, what's the semi-final?
Yeah.
Why aren't we in the final?
Why aren't we just automatically in it? Because we're usually really good, question mark.
And then we didn't qualify, and it was like, okay, what's the story here? So, both of them, obviously, sibling act from Athlone.
Shout out Athlone.
Hello.
Everyone's getting the shout outs on this episode.
So to everyone around the country. And they went on to have huge careers afterwards in the immediate aftermath. They were on Fáilte Towers, if we remember that. That's another one for another day.
We're racking up the list. Like, just Mikey's back for All Ireland Talent Show, Fáilte Towers. Perfect. Great, Brilliant.
Evelyn Cusack was on Fáilte Towers. Like, that's just iconic.
I'm upset. Don't get me started on Fáilte Towers. We will never leave this house.
They were, as I said, they were on it. And then there was like a boxing thing that Joe was involved in a few years later. Donna went on to be in Playboy Mansion.
What?
Yes, Donna lived in the Playboy Mansion. As careers goes, I think that is
That's my career trajectory.
That's a good one.
The only reason I'm doing any of this shit is so I can eventually just like walk through the hall in the Playboy Mansion and someone be like, "What are you doing here? Get the fuck out."
Yeah, both of them turn up every now and again. Both of them out.
I think they're still kind of involved in music a little bit.
Yeah. I remember seeing one of them on a dating app. I don't know how much I can say about that. And of course I went, love can build you up.
Love can build you up, question mark?
And then he replied, love can take you down. And it was a
good
thing.
Sport.
I was like, we love the joke. Yeah.
We love it. We love it.
They were also very young. I think definitely Joe was in his very late teens.
Yeah.
He hadn't turned 20. And I remember Donna with her little hat and her big belts, very mid-noughties styling.
It's so mid-noughties. I love that song. I really do. I really, really do. Kind of embarrassingly for them, it was the first Eurostar winner not to reach number 1. Now, I will say the reason it didn't, faced stiff competition from Akon Lonely. You know what I mean?
Hear.
So, Akon was never going to let them,
That song was just brilliant. That was an iconic song.
Truly. This was Ray D'Arcy's last season hosting as well. He's like my quintessential memory of the host as well. And even kind of watching back the clips, he's great crack. Even doing the auditions, he's very funny. Like going, like running down the queues of people being like, everybody cheer, woo!
Not overly produced whatsoever.
Yeah, and it's so funny.
And
I love
this
it.
is the change. This is the last year that people qualified for the Eurovision. The judges all changed and it was a brand new format then. And I think, for me anyway, Lucia Evans wins Series 4. I don't know who that is.
We'll talk about Lucy Evans in a second because, again, I have a very, quintessentially local Irish memory of her. But what do you think about that change that they made? Did you think it was the right call at the time? And I suppose, would you have any thoughts on them bringing something similar back for our current Eurovision entrance going forward? Because obviously, like, let's call it a spade, we've been shit, like.
Yeah.
Unfairly, I think, in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I don't need to be batting for Brooke here. Everyone knows, like, how she didn't qualify, no idea.
No.
Like, nuts, like. But what do you think? Is it a format that you could see coming back?
Well, like, that's what works in Sweden. But what happens is they don't sing a Britney song week 1 and a Beyonce song week 2 and the Beatles week 3. They come in with their song.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to do.
Your Star is all covers.
You need to see the song, you need to see the production, you need to see the outfit. Now, I'm sure in Sweden it all gets tweaked again, but you need to have an idea of what you're voting for. Like, I know in what the current format, it's on the Late Late Show, we see the 5 songs. So you do know what song you're voting for, but you don't see any bit of a production. We all know the sound in the Late Late studio. Like, it just shite. Like, it just doesn't work for anyone. Even international acts don't sound great in there. It just doesn't work. So I do think if you're going to do that, it needs to be a few heats. You maybe get 20 acts over 4 weeks, whittle it all down. But then you just get a popularity contest in Ireland of, you know, who's got the biggest fan base. You need to see who's going to win Eurovision, who's going to qualify from the semi-final for Eurovision. That is the most important thing. I think it was a great idea when we had it for Mikie Joe. The song worked with Mikie Joe.
Yeah.
And it worked on stage. Like, he was one of the favourites that year to win Eurovision. And I think there was a disappointment he didn't come 11th. I think in the grander scheme, it was great. It's our second highest placement in the last 20 years. Other than Jedward. Hello, Jedward.
Hello, Jedward.
Coming 8th. So it worked. And then from Chris Doran onwards, it didn't. So I think the format needed to change. But I think at that point, they could have got rid of Eurostar.
Yeah, because this is the thing. I didn't actually realise how long it went on. So, like, in terms of flops, like, it ran from 2002 to 2008.
Yeah.
Which, like, it also feels like 800 years ago, but then you watch it and it brings you screaming back. So that 4th season, this is 2005, and as you said, it's totally changed. It's not to represent Ireland in the Eurovision. It was a recording contract with Universal Music Ireland and Polydor UK, and €10,000 worth of musical and audio equipment. And again, I don't remember anyone really in this, but I do remember Lucy Evans, and I remember the song, "'Cause I'm bruised but I'm not broken,
oh my God, yes.
Hurt but I'm still hoping." And I remember when she won, and I loved it. I actually do like that song, but I think it was a bit like, again, I think we're moving out of ballad territory at this time, so I think people are a bit like over it. But I remember, if anyone doesn't know this about me, my dad's actually from Carlow, and she was doing like a signed meet and greet in the Roxy music shop in the Fairgreen shopping centre. And I remember seeing the signs for it and being really annoyed that I couldn't go because it was on like a Sunday. And if we were going up to Carlow, like, we'd usually be going home the Sunday back to Cork, you know? So I was devastated. That's my resounding memory of Lucy Evans. And actually, sorry, it was this season that Jeanette Cronin was on it. So
okay, yes, your friend from Cork.
Shout out to Jeanette Cronin. She's actually not my friend, and I'd say she's going to be told about this podcast and be like, shut the fuck up talking about me. Like, why? Get my name out of your mouth.
Legal letters coming in.
But yeah, that song, Bruised Not Broken, only peaked to number 5. I say only peaked. Number 5, nothing to be sniffed at.
No.
But I think, again, this shows the trajectory that Eurostar was on.
Yeah.
And I think it's also important to state, I think X Factor kicked off in 2004, right? So this was like, X Factor was just kind of peaking. You're coming into like peak, obviously Steve Brookstein, we won't talk about Steve Brookstein at all, but Shane Ward, you're like, it's...
Heading towards Leona Lewis.
It's only up from there. So I think people were looking at going between X Factor and Eurostar, if you had the 8 channels or whatever, and you were like, this kind of bit shit, and maybe? I don't know.
You're not going to focus on both realistically. You know, it takes up your whole weekend.
Yeah. You know? Especially, Mikey's like, I was busy.
I had loads on.
But I do also think, as much as they were probably right to change the Eurovision thing, I think maybe it caused people to give less, like, maybe this is a really unfair generalisation. I think at that point we cared so much about Eurovision more than we did, or more than we had a belief in, like, Irish artists in that realm, if that makes it. Like, I think it's so great now. We have this kind of slew of pop artists and bands coming out, and they have a chance to, like, do really well and be successful, and there's more big Irish acts than ever, and we're getting behind them. I don't think we kind of were at that point as a general public. I don't think we were taking people... I think it was different to be like, okay, you're a Eurovision artist, you're representing us at Eurovision, that's a big deal, we'll get behind you. But if it was just like, oh, you're putting a little song out, that's great. But, like, you're never going to be Britney or whoever, again, the big contemporaries at that time. I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, no, actually, I never thought of it that way. And there was no big Irish acts that came out of the mid-noughties that I can think of off the top of my head. The way that they're, like, I say a slew of them coming now.
The way they are now,
and the wave is huge. And the way that, like, you know, all the radio stations and, you know, the money that's behind Irish acts now wasn't behind it then. I suppose that was the only platform, really, that people had was Eurostar. So maybe people had to go for it to get any bit of money, to get any bit of, a step up. But yeah, I think, like, as the seasons go, I think that one was the dud one. I think people... the change didn't work. And there was, record producers as judges and people didn't know them.
Oh my God, yeah, this random fella from bloody EMI or something. I was like, who are you?
No offence to you, I'm sure you're doing great with your career, but like, I didn't know you at the time and I don't know you now. And I'm sure he doesn't know me either, and that's fine too.
Mariah Carey, I don't know her. Yeah, literally has never met either of us, never will. We're like, perfect.
Whereas like Linda Martin, Louis Walsh, Carrie Katona,
iconic.
And Brendan O'Connor.
We will get to the Brendan O'Connor of it all. I should say this season also included Marlene Bain came third and the Sullivan brothers who came second, and Lucy Evans was representing Galway, so shout out Galway. Season 5 then returned for 5th season. There was no wildcard show this season, so another change. 82 made it through. Out of these, 40 went through to the knockout round until the final 12 were chosen. I think this was a bit of a shocking season, but again, not one that I can remember. Do you remember Paul James?
This is the one I remember.
Okay, tell me about this, because I'm going to be honest, not a lot pinging in my brain when I was reading about this.
There was a girl I went to Rice College in Ennis. Hello, Rice College in Ennis.
Ennis got, he did very well out of this, I have to say.
Yeah. So we had a girl, Susan O'Neill was her name, and she's got a massive career now. Sun is her name.
Amazing.
SON, and she's regularly on the Late Late Show. They do a nice special recognising somebody. She'd be in singing the songs, and she's amazing.
Okay.
Performance of the King Kong Company, whatever. So this is a big shout out for you.
Oh, fab.
She's amazing.
Sorry, okay, I know who she is now. Yeah.
Super talented. So she was on it, and she was in the school at the time. I think she was in Leaving Cert. I was in second year, so massive hype behind her.
You were like,
yes. Behind her sister was in my year. People went off to see. I wasn't ever picked to go on the bus because I didn't do music, whatever, just because I can't sing or play an instrument.
I feel like this is semi-therapy for you as well. I think we're unpacking a lot of trauma, so I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you.
And then there was another girl, Maeve O'Donovan, who was from the Clare Limerick border down Clonlara kind of area, and she made it to either the final or the semi-final, made it quite far. So there was a big Clare interest. And then there was 2 bands, one Scuba Dice, one 21 Demands, and I remember them being really cool and maybe kind of around the start of the bands era, 21 Demands turning up to be Codaline in the end, the very early stages of Codaline. I don't know who was in, who was out in the end, but I remember them being great. And I remember David O'Connor, did he win it in the end? And
yes, David O'Connor.
I remember having a good, strong interest in the series.
Yeah. So I think there was a guy, Paul James, at the start who was eliminated in week 1, but he was apparently, but again, this is coming from the Eurostar Wikipedia page, and again, it's someone who was maybe a Paul James stan and isn't admitting it, because it's written and it's like, shockingly early favourite, the very talented and charismatic Paul James. I'm like, did Paul James write this? But anyway, he was eliminated early on. Again, slightly different prize, I should say, as well. So it's a recording contract with Universal Music, a publishing contract with Sony ATV, €10,000 worth of musical equipment from Roll Ireland, and a cash prize. And then the judges this year, you had Linda Martin, Brendan O'Connor and Thomas Black.
Like, those prizes are nothing to be sniffed at.
No, absolutely not. And
there's good money.
The final season, it's like properly just like a wad of cash, a lump of cash. We need to talk about the Brendan O'Connor of it all. We're here now. Because again, this was... I really hope I'm never ever asked to be on his show. Not that I think I ever will be. The ego of me being like, I hope I'm never asked to be on a show. But if I am, because I fancy that man. And this was the start of it. Because he was
Cork people supporting Cork people.
No, 100%. It's obviously, I was like, I loved seeing the Cork representation of a Cork judge.
Yeah.
He was like kind of mean, kind of gas.
Kind of very.
Do you reckon?
He was so mean. And it's so if it happened now, he would not be that mean. Because... that's just not the way TV is now.
Yeah.
He was totally the Simon Cowell of it all and played up to it. There was
it was so pantomime.
And I'd say the X Factor had obviously taken off, Pop Idol had happened, and I'd say there was a production call. You're going in and you're going in on those people.
Yeah.
And you're going to be the villain. You're going to give people something to really talk about. You're going to give people something to hate. And like in the world, you either need to love or hate something. If you've no feelings, then you're not going to watch it.
Truly.
Same with the, if someone's on the cover of a magazine or somebody's got a book out, you're more likely to buy it if you hate them than if you've got no feelings whatsoever. If you're completely indifferent, what's the point? So either hate something or love something and then think they got the hate in with them.
Yeah.
And that works.
It did, because I was eating it up. This was a funny season as well, though, because there was a couple of like guest acts, and like actually, and they like tutored the acts on whichever week they were on, and like some of these names, not anything to be sniffed at. Sophie Alice Baxter,
yes,
the Blizzards, yes. Iconic. Trust Me, a Doctor. Shane Ward, already mentioned. McFly, iconic.
I remember McFly, and I remember Sophie Alice Baxter. So clearly.
I did not remember this at all. I was reading the names. I was like, fair. Someone put the hand in the pocket and was like, right, let's start spending money on this. Thank God. But again, it doesn't really compare to like the Beyonce of it all with Alexander Burke.
No. And at the end of the day, they're just standing on the stage in the heels. Let's not forget that too.
Do they remember that? Do you think Sophie Alex Baxter remembers?
She's driving in. She's like, what's DCU? What's the coup?
She's like, cute. Love that for them. Brian McFadden was a guest judge one week as well. And as you mentioned, the final three, we had David O'Connor, 21 Demands, now known as Codeline. Final four, Maeve Donovan and Scuba Dice. And this was the first year I think they released their songs as downloads as well.
Okay.
So we've
gone right digital.
This is it, 2007, we were on the pulse. And they all made the top 20 in the Irish charts. 21 Demands, now known as Codeline, came in at number 1, followed by David O'Connor. But as you said, they didn't even win.
Yeah.
So the 21 Demand song was Give Me a Minute. The Winner Takes It All was David O'Connor's. Landslide, Maeve Donovan, and Holiday by Scuba Dice. Scuba Dice, I like remember the name, but I have no resounding memory of them.
I feel like they were better.
Okay.
Now, don't hold me to that. I don't really know. But I really feel at the time they were the better ones, but 21 Demands did better.
Yeah.
I think. But then it was all about votes. Like,
this is the thing.
Like, I could go on and sing, and if I had enough votes, I could win.
Truly, yeah.
So if anyone wants to vote for me.
Fun little bit of trivia for you as well. 21 Demands became the first act in Irish chart history to score a number 1 single on downloads alone.
Very good.
So there you go. Nothing to be sniffed at. Shane Ward was there to announce the winner. Again, it's all this feedback from what the judges said. So Louis Walsh said the 21 Demands had a great future with the right management, and they did, in fairness. Brendan O'Connor said it would be a crime if 21 Demands did not win. Lyndon Thomas agreed. Despite these comments, former jockey, it's important to stress that David O'Connor was just a jockey who really loved singing, had done really well at the Karaoke World Championships. He won. But when we're talking about even viewership as well, this was a season that not as many people were into, even in comparison to those early seasons. But the final still pulled over 500,000 viewers, which was down 20% in the previous year. That's unheard of now for an Irish show, with the exception of The Late Late, the Toy Show, or the Valentine Special. You know what I mean? I think people really underestimate that. So in that sense, it's not a flop. It did really well.
Yeah. And that was the end of it, though. That's it.
That was
and that became
literally
the road.
The end of it.
I suppose 6 seasons, you can only bring the show so far anyway. So it probably, even if it was still slightly successful, or it obviously was with that viewership, it just kind of comes to how many more singers are there? Can we still get the judges? Can we still get the budgets? Let's move on to something else. So that's what it was, really.
The last season then, the 6th season, we had Black Daisy as well, who I think, they went on to represent us in Eurovision at one point. Etc. I've heard that all so many times. Again, unfairly didn't qualify.
I think that was only one place off qualifying as well. I think it was either 11th or 12th. There's one or the other in their semi-final.
Injustice.
I remember she in her leather leggings.
They slayed, they just looked like Bratz dolls, and I mean that in a complimentary way. They were I was obsessed with them. They were in it. It was Leanne Moore won that season. She's gone on to be a very successful fitness influencer, but she had a number 1 as well with her song On Wings. She went on to be a backing singer for Jedward and Ryan Dolan during their Eurovision performances.
She's very connected to Eurovision.
Yeah. Did a stint with the girl band.
Also married to somebody from California.
There you go. But that's also, Irish reality TV is so symbiotic. It's just, it all ends up connecting. But that was the last season. But we have to talk about, in the midst of all this, Celebrity Eurostar.
Now, I did not realise there was 3 seasons.
Neither did I. I thought it was a one and done thing. And then I went on to the Wikipedia, the amount of people that have been in this, the names.
Catherine Thomas was on season 2. I was like, is this a lie? I need to go find that video of Catherine Thomas singing.
Now there is a YouTube channel that's very handily called Celebrity Eurostar, and it just has all of Nuala Carey's performance the season she was on, and all of the GA All-Stars.
Yes.
But talk to me about this. This was just
So it's all the big
Beyond.
names. So it probably came back from the early days of Celebrity Big Brother, which they did it for charity as well. So a lot of the main shows took the charity special, got the celebs in, and the money went to charity. That changed kind of a while later, and anything celebrity related was for money for themselves.
Yeah,
because they have their own mortgages to pay as well. So yeah, we had big names. So we had like Sean Bon Brannock. I remember him being huge, not being able to sing. We had the GA All-Stars, Barney Rock being one of them, Dean Rock's father, Dublin star at the moment. Catherine Thomas was in it. Sheila Shoiga was in it. You mentioned Nuala Carey, and we talked about her at the beginning. And because her videos are on there, I have watched them multiple times. She sings Downtown, and it's my favourite.
Iconic. Not her Material Girl performance as well.
That's very
Nuala committed. And like, I'm happy to talk about this because she was on 6 o'clock show one of the times when I was hosting, and I was like, I need to talk to her about it. And Nuala's great sport, and Nuala's happy to talk about it. We didn't get time to talk about it on air, but I said, Nuala, Celebrity All-Star, I just want you to know you slayed. You got up there and you said, I'm serving tonight.
And she could sing.
She was so good.
And she went right in on the costuming. The production was done on her.
The production elevates here. Now, it's still, again, we're still in the helix, right? But it's definitely the costume department. We're like, okay, we need to step our pussies up. Like, let's do a bit more of the staging, whatever. It's just, so I think they did it for one season in 2005. And I don't know if they were like anticipating the success of it. So I think they were calling it, I think the first season is called Eurostar Celebrity Special, and then they were like, oh no, this is actually good, so we'll just do Celebrity Eurostar, we'll do it for 2 more seasons. Mentored iconically by Twink. Brilliant. So all the celebrities were like, I forgot, and then I was reading about it, but I remember like again, they do it on X Factor where it's like the announcer and it's like Rachel Adedeji, and they're doing like, they're standing in the wind tunnel, but you're seeing her like preparing for the week. They did that on Celebrity All-Star, but it's just like Twink being like, so what are you singing this week? And like talking about like, that's going to be very hard, whatever, etc., etc. It's so good. Louis Walsh, Linda Martin, and Brendan O'Connor.
There's a pile of politicians, one
judging.
of the years.
Finney and McGrath did the first year, independent TD.
Very
Sorry,
nice.
let's go through the first season. You mentioned some of them already. We had Amanda Brunker, David Mitchell, who's a Fair City actor, Finney and McGrath, independent TD.
Sorry, first, could be just David Mitchell, Jimmy Doyle. Like that again, this is a whole other episode of how iconic he was. What a ride.
What a ride. What a ride.
He lives in New York now.
Oh, shout out. Natasha Nagarov, she's a former Miss Ireland. Anyway, Leah McCormack, a Statitude presenter.
Brilliant.
Where is he? Another one that I used to fancy quite a lot. Shout out, Liam, wherever you are. Sheila Shoiga, you mentioned. Alan Shore, who was on Bull Island.
Also was a presenter one of the seasons. So
again, love that, following the Brian Norman trajectory. That's how you do it.
From what I can gather, she did the audition process. Well, what Wikipedia told me was she did the audition process, and then it came back in the new year with the live shows, and I think that was Keith Duffy's presenting time.
Yes.
Keith Duffy then also went on to judge it as well. So he went from presenter to judge. But yeah, I don't remember Sheila Shoiga being involved whatsoever, but that's great.
There you go. And then iconically, Jerry May.
Brilliant.
My fave. Honestly, my fave.
I loved her. Met her once in Mosney.
Oh, and nice.
Lovely.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to meet her. Second season, then we have Catherine Thomas, as you mentioned. John Aldridge, former Liverpool and Republic of Ireland player. Like, they were able, like, some of the names are like, kind of, I'm surprised you got them. And then some of them are like, oh yeah, fair enough. Like, you were free and you're up for it and you were up for it.
Bring some of these back for Dancing with the Stars. Bring Jerry May for Dancing with the Stars, please.
I'm like, okay, maybe this is controversial, but like, I do think we could go a long way with repairing what's going on societally in Ireland by having a singing competition and like letting some of the politicians do it.
That's been nice.
You know what I mean? Because it's so... Okay, so we have Louis Copeland and Roddy Collins. Louis Copeland, obviously a fashion designer. Roddy Collins, football manager. Gail Conswarin, model. Yes. Dahi O'Shea, iconically.
Brilliant.
Shane O'Donoghue, RT sports commentator. Anya Nee Druna. Oh my God, Owen Keane's going to kill me. That's a TG Carr presenter, Irish surname, sorry. But then we had Supergroup, the politicians.
Yes,
right?
We love a Supergroup. Following on from Final Four, ahead of One Direction.
Literally just members of the Oireachtas with Billy Keller, TD, Senator Frank Fian, Dan Boyle, TD, Senator Michael McCarthy. What?
Like, could you imagine them gathering up like 5 politicians now? I'd love to see who they'd put together. I would be so here for it. Maybe just do that.
Now, as much as I think it could go a long way in repairing the country, I also think if that was announced tomorrow and it was like just...
the uproar.
No, I think it could be a country divided as well.
I think it could actually bring the country down. It shouldn't.
It shouldn't.
But I think in 2023 it probably would. Maybe next year.
Yeah.
People might calm down.
Maybe next year. And then we also
Like, what are RT doing paying all these people? Why are they paying
Actually,
Holly Cairns to sing?
maybe not now. Let the heat die down and then we can
be like
revisit it.
Rachel Duffy. Why are they paying Holly Cairns to sing songs?
Oh my God. And then, sorry, with McLean Burke, Fair City actor.
Yes.
Love him.
Damien.
Season 3, we had Shane Byrne, rugby union player, obviously recently on Dance with the Stars as well, Bren Pope, rugby union pundit. We had a presenter supergroup, which was iconically Sinead Kennedy. Did not realise she did this.
I did not read this.
Sinead Kennedy and Simon Deasy.
Oh my God, I don't remember Simon Deasy at all.
I don't remember Simon Deasy at all either. Sorry, no offence, Simon Deasy. But I will say, a lot of this isn't online, which is so infuriating. Like, I'd love to properly watch back and get into it, but alas, it's very hard. Sean Van Brannock, you mentioned. Brendan Courtney.
Brilliant, iconic.
Then we had The Roses, which was just former Rose Tralee winners, iconic. Orla Tobin.
That would stand to this day as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Orla Tobin, Roisin Egginton and Orla O'Shea. Joe O'Shea of Shoalga and O'Shea.
Which was like the predecessor of Maura and Dahi.
Truly.
Oh my God, what a great afternoon
I love Shoalga and O'Shea. This was Neil Carey season. And then we had Vivian Connolly, model. And then we had the All-Stars, as you mentioned, Barney Rock, David Beggy, Jack O'Shea. They raised a lot of money for charity. I think one of the years between all the respective charities, it was something like 300k. Nothing to be sniffed at. Everyone's having a good time. Everyone's having a laugh.
Yeah.
They're doing it to let Brendan O'Connor be mean to them and get dressed up.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's a great day out.
Perfect.
Off the Helix, put on a nice dress, dance to Material Girl.
Love it.
Yeah, no. I think I would love to watch that back now. If anyone wants, I have the DVD of season 2. So I'm happy to give a lend.
Oh my God.
I must get like a little exhibition card set up. It is at home because it's there and it will never be thrown out.
Maybe we should do a screening. Oh my God.
We should do a screening.
But again, is that not so naughty that it's like there was a DVD of the reality show competition? Like.
And then there was like a behind the scenes special where it does like an hour long bringing you through all the bits and bobs of all the weeks. So it'll bring you like a snippet of each week. So it'll be like, on week 1, George Murphy sang and it didn't go well, and it like goes to George like not being able to get the words out or whatever, and then it's him afterwards being upset, and then it's like, and this person got eliminated. It goes right through and right through. It's brilliant. I love that. Right fast. We could probably just screen that.
Honestly, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay, I think
we could put a shout out. Does anyone have the other seasons on DVD as well?
Please, helloflapculture@gmail.com. Please. And I will pay handsomely.
There was a CD as well, and I remember it because Ruth Cullen's song "Fields of Gold" was on it. I don't remember buying it though, and you could also.
Oh my God, fake fans! Sorry, Mikey. Fucking hell.
I know, terrible. But I had the DVD, so she sang it in there. And song 1 was the Eurostar theme tune.
You're a star, banger. Yeah.
And then like song 16 was the remix of Eurostar.
There's a remix.
There was a remix. So if anyone has that CD, somebody has to have it. And it was in Roxy Records in Ennis, and I remember going in and be looking at it, to open in the box, taking out the sleeve, reading what was in the sleeve, putting it back in, putting it back on the shelf. Yeah.
We had the exact same childhood, I think, because it's exactly what I did. Oh my God.
And if anyone wants it, I do have the tape of Pop Stars.
Oh, perfect. Brilliant.
And then I also have 6 CDs.
I love how you're just like shilling your wares. Just
if anyone wants to come over.
Available to rent. Perfect. Brilliant.
I should put that in my Tinder bio.
I have Eurostar on DVD.
Eurostar and chill.
They're like, I'm coming over. Eurostar and chill. Mikey, I'm obsessed. I think we've kind of already covered it, but before I let you go, I suppose, why do you think ultimately it flopped in a way in terms of the drop-off in viewership and the changing format? Is there any way you could see it coming back? And if anyone hasn't watched it, why should they seek it out and watch everything that they can on YouTube or possibly the dark web? I don't know, maybe it's there.
That's it,
or just borrow the DVD, or Mikey's house,
I think it flopped. I think it just ran out of steam. I think it just, by season 6, like, there was nothing else going on. While it gave people a start in their careers, are any of them, bar Codaline, massively successful now, unfortunately. Maybe they are. Susan O'Neill is doing quite well. And maybe there are a few of those other Susan O'Neills that we don't recognise in the guise of their names right now and, are slaying it and, selling out venues that we don't know. And happy
I will
days
say,
that they are.
yeah, I will George Murphy is literally playing
yes,
Vicar Street.
of course.
He's sold out Vicar Street, and I think there's another one, George Murphy and the Rising Suns. Shout out. I'm not on his payroll. This makes it sound like it is, but shout out.
It is more so the later seasons that we don't know who did well. And George Murphy, Simon Casey's still doing well, Mickey Jo Hart's still doing well.
Flat out.
Brian Orphan had a great TV career.
Absolutely.
Wild flopped, I think, just ran out of steam. It's had a ran out of people, ran out of just ideas. And that was that. They moved on to the All Ireland Talent Show. And then later, The Voice of Ireland did come as well.
It's the Voice of Ireland.
Which I'd say I watched 2 episodes of that. So.
Yeah, didn't capture me in the same way, unfortunately.
No.
Unfortunately. Mikey, it's been such a pleasure. And you will... I don't care if you don't want to come back. You have to come back and talk about all the other shitty reality shows.
I will be 100% back to the All Ireland Talent Show because there's so many hidden people in there that went on to have big careers that we don't know about.
Okay, season 4. Watch this space. Where can people read your work? You're very busy. Where can people find out more about you if they want to?
So you can go on to my Instagram. So it's Mikie, Mikie, no Y's. There's no Y in my name.
Y's.
So Mikie_OL. And you'll find me there. Yeah, usually just on a night out in the George or get a multiple hair transplant.
Stunning. Perfect. I'll leave all the links below. Mikey, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me on Flop Culture.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Mikey for joining me. I'll leave all of his links in the show notes below if you want to keep up with him. As I mentioned, no Top of the Flops this week, but I would still love to know who you think is Top of the Flops, who has been flopping hardcore in the public consciousness, hard word, in society. Please let me know. If you're listening on Spotify as well, there is usually an interactive box in which I ask you who is Top of the Flops. So if you're listening on Spotify, let me know. I'd be excited to read them on my travels. Flop Culture returns next week with the best, worst Irish film ever made. I'm not even being hyperbolic, and I guarantee you it's not the one you're thinking of. So excited. This has been Flop Culture. Big thanks to Adam Shanahan for editing. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.